Welcome to the Live the Now podcast with Dr. Suzanne Dobson.
Good morning or afternoon, wherever you may be, and welcome to Live the Now with Dr. Suzanne Dobson. We've talked about what this podcast means and how I want to teach others or help others to learn from my mistakes. We've talked about how I deserve mentality that we're now facing or using. Another problem that we're now having, or seems to be, is, as I adjust my headset here, social media and how it impacts our lives. We're constantly asking ourselves now, are we successful enough? How do we compare with others? How do we become like so-and-so? And so when we watch these people or we look at Facebook, Snapchat, whatever, we look at this social media blitz that we now live in, we compare ourselves. For example, I like using friends, family. That's right. No one is safe. I like using stories. It's kind of how I teach my class. A lady that I know has an incredible life. Oh, she really, on social media and everything else, it's an incredible life, for lack of a better way to say. She's got this huge house on the beach anybody would love. Her husband has to be the most romantic and funniest man in the world. Her family they're gorgeous, they're smart, they're funny. They're always winning something. She is beautiful, an extremely successful business owner. So again, independent lady, owning her own business, doing her own thing. This family that, is Hollywood. Perfect. And I always thought so. They love showing the latest vacations and where they're flying to next and going to amusement parks or going, down the river. I mean, all this stuff. And I look at her postings and I think, really? Why? Why not me? What's wrong with me? I'm a good person. I deserve, see, there's that word, these things. Why can't I have that incredible life? And I have to remind myself of the story, the real story. The real story is that perfect husband has had a number of different jobs over the years. He seems to have a problem staying employed. The house is a rental. A friend is letting them live there at a hugely reduced price. And they've been living there now for about 6 months. But since people are starting to book, summer beach vacations, their friend wants to rent the house out because that's how they make a lot of the money that pays for that house. But they're not really in a hurry to get out. I mean, why would you? And it may cost them a friend, and it could give them a bad reputation within that community. The vacations they go on a lot of times are either paid by the parents of the couple, or friends say, hey, why don't you come down and stay with us or live in our house and take a vacation and come see us. And then the only thing they're out of is gas and food. You look online and they've got an incredible life. Their children are very smart, but they are so socially struggle with that social interaction. They're all at respectable colleges, which is great. And they won a lot of scholarships and all because, of course, the family doesn't have much money. So grants are plentiful. Scholarships are plentiful. And again, they are smart. She does okay with her business. She's making enough money to pay some bills and to buy what she needs to keep her business moving forward. But is it that she's successful? And you have to define successful, and we'll go back to that on another podcast. And she is beautiful when she's got all of her makeup on and when her hair's done. Her without makeup and hair is a different. I think she's still beautiful, especially inside, but the outward appearance is different. So when I remember the reality, I feel bad for her. Because, why create a fake life that's shrouded in a lie when you've got a great life? When you've got so much truly going for you? What's wrong with letting people see your struggles? Why do we feel we have to hide that? Everyone knows life's a struggle. Everyone is struggling with something. But yet in social media, that's not what we see. And social media, I think, originally started as a way to connect families who had moved. My family, I'm lucky enough that, to be honest, since like the 1700s, we've gone 20 miles. And most of my aunts and uncles and cousins and cousins on down, we all still live in the same place. We can see each other. Not daily, of course, but we see each other regularly. We have regular cousin dinners, which I love. But we never branched out much. So social media for people, for families who are all over the United States or world, can talk and see. And so I think social media has a definite place when it's used correctly. Is the compare then despair only from social media, though? No, it's not. It's a mindset. It's what we do. For example, recently, a student came to see me. And you guys know I love when students come to see me. So if any of my former students are watching this, hey, reach out. You might be on the podcast. There are some former students who will be visiting us soon. But recently a student got in touch with me, and he just wanted to let me know he was doing great. He's excited. He's 22 years old, just finished college, got his first job. He just put a down payment on a house. He's excited, and he should be. However, I have to admit, when he said he's making $100,000 a year, my thought later after I left him was, really? $100,000? I've not even broke $100,000, and I have 5 degrees, 30 years in teaching, working a couple of side jobs, and I don't have that kind of money. What would I have done if I was 22 making $100,000? What would I have done at 30? And we don't need to keep going with the numbers. You get the point. So why can't I make that kind of money? What would I do with that kind of money? Would I go on vacation? Because our house is paid off. So would I go on vacation with that kind of money? Would I give it to the grandkids? What would I do with that kind of money? But those are questions that came to my mind, like I said, after I left that student. Now, I'm excited for that student. He deserves that opportunity. He has had some real struggles. I'm excited for him and his future wife. They're great people. And I would not take anything away from that. But I compared myself for a moment. And in that moment, I realized I might not break 100,000. But if I wasn't where I taught that student, I wouldn't have gotten that phone call, right? See, got to change your mindset. As a matter of fact, later on that evening, I was telling my husband about the house and everything, kind of grumbling a little bit. I got a phone call. Strangest thing. A former student called and she said, I don't know why. You've been on my mind and I had to call you. And I said, I'm glad you did. What's going on? How's life? She said, they just gave birth to their first daughter. Oh, I might cry, so be patient. And I could hear her and her husband, who I also taught, so excited. They were talking. They were telling me about the baby and everything. And she said that they were doing very well, that they told stories of me often. I hope that's a good thing, but nonetheless. And she said she wanted me to know that her life was so good because the mother figure that I was. No. I don't think of myself as a mother figure. I just kind of think of myself as a teacher who's going to tell you the way it is. And she said that, I was the one who told her when she did something great. And I recognized that and I cheered for her. But I also was the one who told her straight when she was doing something wrong and to quit. So she told me that she really appreciated all those times of when I did correct her and when I did help her and when I did cheer for her because there was no one else. I didn't realize that, but she said there was no one else that took and cared that much. She said that even now, all these years later, she still hears me in her head when she's got decisions to make or things to do or she's not sure. She'll hear me telling her. And she said she wanted to raise her daughter just like I did. Because she said, I can't get you out of my head. So why would I stop now? Now, that phone call, if I had left and taken that job at NASA or done other things, I wouldn't have had that phone call. That's worth so much more than $100,000 or a mansion or millions. And that's the important part, is when we compare ourselves, it impacts and changes our lives. My husband, who I adore, he's a butthole sometimes, but he's mine. I love him. He was an incredible athlete. Oh, gosh. I got to see him. It's just amazing the things that he could do as an athlete. He lost his dad when he was 7, so he didn't really have a male role model to help push him. And his mother was doing the best she could with 2 kids, a widow, and she did, like I said, the best she could. So he had nobody to really tell him or understand athletically what he's capable of. His coaches were good coaches, but they were not the build the relationship, support all students, help the way coaches do now. They were just get you on the field, do what you do, get off the field, and we go home. It was not a whole build a family environment that we have now, or at least we have at the high school I've been a part of. He was offered, because of his athletic ability, and he was recognized for, he was offered scholarships to Alabama. Yes, football with Bear Bryant. Texas A&M, Coast Guard Academy in Jacksonville State, as well as some others. Matter of fact, he didn't even know about the Texas A&M and Coast Guard Academy until a few years ago. His mom handed him a box and said, here's all your stuff from high school. and we started going through it, there was a Texas A&M full ride scholarship letter. Nobody ever even opened it. His mother said, I didn't think it was that important. Oh, well. Terry's goal was to play NFL. You know how many boys grow up going, I'm going to play NFL. I'm going to play in the NBA. And that's what they shoot for. Well, Terry was one of them. He wanted to go to the NFL. He wanted to go to college to get to the NFL. However, state track meet senior year, he runs a 4.3 second in the 40-yard dash. Now, I've been told by track coaches and all, this is pretty impressive, especially during the 82-83 track season. So he ran that, and he came in second. His thought was he'd never make the NFL if he couldn't beat this guy at the track meet because he wasn't that fast. So Bear Bryant had again asked him to come and play at Alabama, but wanted him to go to the junior college, help him grow a little bit, help him get a different football program, get a little more experience, and then come play for him. Well, because of the track meet that year, Terry decided he wasn't NFL material. So he went to the junior college, and there he decided, why keep trying? I'm not ever going to play for Bear Bryant. I mean, I know the man said, but yeah, So he came back home, went to Jack State, where we met, and graduated. Now, granted, we met at Jack State, and I'm glad he came back to Jack State, but here's the rest of the story. So the man that he compared himself to, the man that he lost the state track meet to, by hundredths of a second, to the point that he could have reached out and touched the guy. The man he compared and changed his future because of was Bo Jackson. Some of you may not know who Bo is. Bo knows. Look up the commercials. Bo Jackson became, of course, the Hall of Famer. He played 2 major league national sports, football and baseball, and was a very gifted athlete. My husband was second to him. Now, I promise you, if Terry had gone on to the NFL, he and Bo might have made history. We don't know. He and Bo talked after that track meet and laughed and everything else, but they were 2 18-year-old boys running. And that was all they were doing. Neither, of course, knew the future. Now, Bo does not know that he was playing on Terry's insecurities. Bo ran well. But Terry felt he was coming up short. And in coming up short, why try? Now, there was nobody cheering for Terry. There was nobody telling him what an incredible job or how gifted an athlete he was, or being a mentor to him and helping him learn or even get better. Not that he could have ever beat Bo Jackson, but still get better. Terry was by himself. And so he compared himself to a boy, and threw his hands up and said, that's it. Now, we've learned a lot from this. And Terry now will not compare himself to anyone. He is who he is. He does the best that he can. He researches what he doesn't know, and then he moves forward. And he says if he goes to bed at night and says, was he better today than he was yesterday? Did he learn something, or did he help someone? If he says he can answer those questions with his whole heart, then he sleeps well. And that's what we do. So we compared ourselves to these people that, one, don't know, because I promise you, Bo Jackson wouldn't care or didn't know. But we compare ourselves and we don't know the whole story. We don't know the future. All we can do is be the best. And when we stand back and not realize all the attributes we have, what is that ripple effect happening? If I don't get up and go into the classroom and be the best that I can be, do the most I can for my students, help them to see their strengths, help them to understand their struggles and push forward, how am I changing lives? How am I moving things forward or moving people forward or helping them to become who they should be? Now, I told you the $100,000 story, I admit. And I admit, I used to wish and want money. Because money. The song. Money. It would make me happy. And I'd pushed myself, because if I pushed myself to make more money, then I could provide for my family better, right? So I stayed focused on getting money. What jobs could I do? How could I pick this up? How could I? And it was my true belief that money, now not teacher money, then I'd be happy. My family would be happy because they'd have everything they want and need. And we would be that gorgeous family I told you about at the beginning, right? I learned, thank goodness. Please learn from my mistakes. I was wrong. Because one of the richest people that I've ever met has millions. Yes, there's an S on that. Millions in the bank. And she is one of the most miserable people I've ever met. She never leaves her home. She worries about paying her bills. And I mean, a $200 electric bill, come on, really? $25 water bill? That's even fine on teacher money, right? And she doesn't give back to society in any way. I mean, nothing. I ride by her house and there's no one ever there. And I think, what a lonely existence. How can someone live without social interaction? Now, granted, I admit sometimes I just want no social interaction because I get so much of it. But how can you have that much money and not want to give back to society? It just seems so lonely. And then I feel really stupid because I thought her life was better than mine. And that was the comparison that I made. Tim McGraw has this new song out and I love. It's called Standing Room Only. Even if you're not a country fan, just listen to the lyrics for a second. Now, copyright. The lyrics were written by Craig Wiseman, Patrick Murphy, and Tommy Cecil, and the song is owned by Sony TV Music. And again, Tim McGraw sings it. It says, I want to live a life like $1 and a clock on the wall don't own me. Start forgiving and start forgetting. And be somebody that's worth remembering. To live a life so that when I die, there's standing room only. I want to stop judging my life by my possessions. Start thinking about how many headlights will be in my procession. That's where we need to start spending our time. That's where our focus should be. Her procession, even with the millions in the bank and whoever she leaves them to, who will be there at the gravesite? The preacher. She doesn't really have any family that she likes or contacts, so the preacher. will be at the gravesite. What a sad waste of a gift. A former dance teacher used to say, she was very, very vocal and very strong-willed dance teacher. But she'd say, don't bother comparing yourself to others. There's always going to be somebody better than you, and there's always going to be somebody worse. The most important thing is to ask yourself, am I improving? So I ask myself this question often, and I always do see my shortcomings because I have to work at improving. As you know, I fall to the negative. I have to work at the positive. Which also leads us to that little green monster. Now, granted, I love green. I have a huge section of my closet devoted to green. I look pretty good in green. But the green-eyed monster, not like him so much. And even though we never truly slay that beast, he's still there. So how do we keep him at bay? How do we keep from comparing ourselves and becoming so envious that it takes over our world because we want what, fill in the blank, has? Well, one, acknowledge your jealousy without judgment. It's okay. It's a human emotion. It's been around since the beginning of time. And the more you own your feelings, the less control those negative feelings have on you. That's what we have to think of. So it's okay to feel jealousy. Just look at what's behind it. So, for example, I always wanted to go to Italy and Ireland. Back to the green thing. I want to. Don't know that I'll ever make it. But I can plan for it. So instead of being jealous that a cousin went to Ireland and spent a month, make a plan. Sit down and make a budget. And when you want to buy that Starbucks coffee or that huge muffin from Buc-ee's, is it worth it? Is that taken away from me going to Ireland? So make steps to achieve what you want to achieve. Instead of being jealous, use it for motivation. Kind of a competition, we'll say. Remember that each person has their own unique happiness recipe. Mine, hugs. Hands down. I love hugs. They are the greatest invention in the world. Anytime I feel low, I get a hug, we're good. I know that sounds maybe strange to some people, but that's my happiness recipe. So some people prefer being on roller coasters, whether it's figurative or literal. Some want to curl up with a good book and live a life through the words. But whatever your purpose is, whatever your needs, your accomplishments, they help to negate the need for comparison. So look at yourself honestly. Look at what you've done and look at what you want to do and then make a plan for it. You know, if you really want to delve into this, look at comparing yourself to yourself. Yeah. What were you like a year ago? 5 years ago? 10 years ago? 10 years ago? 20 years ago? I had energy. I was cute. I had a lot of fun. Oh, wait. Sorry. I started going back in the memories. And that's okay. But was I happier? Was I wiser? Am I more confident now? Take pride in the growth because that growth is what got you to this moment. And explore what threw you off course if something did. If you were saving up for that trip to Ireland and all of a sudden you had to use that money to buy a car, okay. Thank goodness you saved the money, right? Start saving again. So look at how you've grown, how you've changed, who you've become, and see what happens. An old saying is, who is happy? He who is content with his lot in life is the person that is happy. So maybe keep a daily gratitude list, or a weekly, or a monthly. Volunteer. Help others. Whether it is tutoring students or reading to children at the library or sitting with an older person at the nursing home and writing down their life story. But volunteer. I promise you it will help your perspective in life and it'll help you feel good. Of course, if you do the young ones, hugs. So for homework, did you help someone? Have you forgiven someone? Do you see growth? Or, as Mr. Tim McGraw would say, have you thought about how many headlights will be in your procession? So that's our thoughts for today. Breathe. Stay in the moment. And take care.